Welcome on in, Eagles fans, to episode 38 of the No Huddle Show, or Philadelphia Eagles podcast, right here on NJ.com. I'm Joe Giglio, joined as always by Elliot Shore-Parks and Mark Eckel. They cover the Eagles for NJ Advanced Media. OTAs are in the books. We'll get to the impressions that they had on the Eagles for the first time seeing this new team together here with the rookies. And then, of course, talking about this team moving forward. But we're going to start here, guys, with kind of an all mailbag episode. Some questions, kind of a weird time with the Eagles where so much happened over the last month. And now as it's kind of settling down a little bit, as much as it can, people have questions. So I'm sure you guys have answers. Elliot, how you doing, bud?
Doing good. Look forward to interacting with the listeners of the podcast.
Of course, our great listeners of the No Huddle Show. Mark, how are you?
I'm good, Joe. I'm happy Elliot let me do this with him today.
Oh my God.
We're all together here on this podcast on episode 38. All right, let's jump right into the questions. We'll go to Twitter to start, and then I know Mark has some he got on his Facebook page. So we'll go to Mark's in a few minutes. We'll start on Twitter at the No Huddle Show. You can follow the show there and obviously ask us, and we'll try to answer during these shows. All right, we'll start with this one. John Fink asks, will the Eagles offense really be Andy Reid 2.0? And I guess that could be taken as a negative or a positive, depending on what you think of Andy Reid. But Elliot, we'll start with you, then we'll go to Mark and all these. This new offense, is it just Andy's offense, you think, or will it be a little different?
So this might be a better one for Mark, but I'll say just because he covered the entire Andy Reid era. But I will say I think one difference that I would expect is when I think back to the Andy Reid offenses, I never think of them having like a great tight end or kind of running the offense through the tight end. I know Chad Lewis was good and LJ Smith was good for a little bit, but I think a lot of the offense is going to be run through Zach Ertz. That's something the Chiefs did with Travis Kelce over in Kansas City. Now, I'm not saying Zach Ertz is a great tight end, but I do think if he's ever going to reach the potential that a lot of people think he has, and every year it seems like he's going to have a breakout year, I do think that this could be the year for it. I think a lot of the offense will be run through him. I think they'll run the ball more also than Andy Reid used to do. So I don't actually, the more I think about it, I don't really think it will be Andy Reid's. I don't think it'll be a complete carbon copy of Andy Reid because I do think they're going to run the ball more and put it through the tight end.
Yeah, I think it'll be. Andy Reid's offense is a concept of Mike Holmgren's offense that he learned when they worked together in Green Bay. Just like Mike Holmgren's offense is a copy of Bill Walsh's offense that Holmgren learned from him in San Francisco. So it gets passed along through generations, but each guy generally adds or subtracts something that he either, like, he adds it, it's something that he wanted to do that the other guy didn't, or he takes away something that the other guy did that he might not have been so crazy about. So it'll obviously be a West Coast style offense. It will have a lot of the concepts that Eagle fans remember from Andy Reid. The tight end factor that Elliot brought up, that's a good point. And I think Andy went to that more in Kansas City. Although Chad Lewis did, he did catch a lot of passes in his years here. He can't run the ball any less than Andy Reid ran it because Andy Reid never ran it. So, and the fullback will be back in vogue somewhat. Under Chip Kelly, the Eagles didn't even carry a fullback on the roster. So there will be someone dressed as a fullback, even if he's only on the field, maybe 3 out of 10 plays maybe or so. But it will be similar. It will be similar to Andy Reid.
Well, two things I'll take off of that. One is I was surprised during OTAs. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't see the offense line up. Now, granted, they only did full 11-on-11 with no hitting for only a little bit, but I didn't see a lot of fullback.
A couple times. Chris Payne was out there a few times.
Right.
Saying his name right.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting though that they already cut the one fullback that they saw. Well, the guy that had never actually played fullback. Yeah, the linebacker they were going to try as a fullback.
I think what you're going to see. I've been saying this from the day Peterson was hired, and then what they've done so far. I think with Chip, they used what the coaches like to call 11 personnel, which is one running back, one tight end, 3 wide receivers. That was basically their base offense. I think under Peterson, I think you're going to see what they call 12 personnel, which is one running back, 2 tight ends. I think Brent Selleck and Zach Ertz are going to be on the field a lot. I think you're going to see a lot of 2 tight ends, and then the Ertz can split out or go into the slot or do whatever they want with them. But I think you'll see a lot of 1, 2 tight ends and only 2 wide receivers instead of 3.
The other thing is So when you asked the question, I took it as, is it going to be Andy Reid's offense from Philly? But I do think that what Doug Pearson's going to run this year is going to be like 95% exactly what the Chiefs ran last year. So if the question was about Kansas City, then I agree. I think you brought Chase Daniel in here to basically teach the offense, and that's all he's ever ran. But as we just discussed, I do think there'll be differences from the offense Andy Reid ran while he was still with the Eagles.
Well, I don't know who asked the question. Obviously, I mean, you gave it a name, but I don't. I mean, I don't know. He may have been. I don't. Like I said, I don't know the guy. That could have been a sarcastic type. Are they going to waste timeouts? Are they going to not hurry up when they should hurry up?
Yeah, it's like a loaded question because, I mean, Andy's had a lot of success, obviously, with his offense over the years. But at the same time, there's, like you're saying, Mark, there's those aspects that have always been frustrating no matter what city or what team he's been coaching. So I think it could be taken either way. If you like Andy's offense, then, yeah, sure, you want it to be. If you don't, then you could pick it apart.
It won't be Chip Kelly's offense. I'll tell you that. It's not going to be up-tempo. It's not going to be that style. It's going to be West Coast. I mean, and so it'll be a West Coast offense. Now, how Doug calls plays, we've never seen it before, so we have no idea how he's going to call plays.
Yeah, it all depends on how you look at Reid's offense and all that. But I think this next question is interesting. This one from a Twitter account called Gene Hart Forever, which is it's a good one. He wants to know what the Eagles' identity is going to be. The actual question is, what is this Eagles organization's identity? What are we? What are we supposed to be doing well? And I think every good team usually kind of fits into that, finds an identity as either a season goes along or just over the years, what they're about. What do you think this new Eagles team, if we want to say it's new because of all the new pieces and puzzle, obviously with Peterson and now eventually a new quarterback. Elliot, what do you think their identity is now? And if you don't know, what do you think they want it to be as we move forward?
I think the identity is Carson Wentz, even if he's not on the field. I mean, this is the face of the franchise now. I mean, if they had other stronger personalities on this team, it wouldn't become Wentz's team until he got on the field. But, you talk about the identity. I mean, maybe Fletcher Cox or, the defensive line, but I don't really think the defensive line is going to be that dominant to that degree. I mean, I think they're the best unit on the team. I mean, obviously Sam Bradford has no personality, so he's not going to be the identity of the team. But I mean, yeah. So I would say it's Carson Wentz. And I mean, I think when they described Carson Wentz and what they liked about him, I think that's kind of what they're trying to build, at least for what they think about him is, competitive, hardworking. We just talked about Chip Kelly, a few minutes ago. I think they were trying to get away from the, having, for better or worse, I don't think it was Chip's fault. I just think because of what a big name he was, Chip Kelly was the Eagles. I mean, his personality, he was, the big name whenever they were on ESPN or anything like that. And I think now they're going much more subdued. And I do think Carson Wentz, though, I mean, his personality, I think, is what they want the personality of this team to be.
Yeah, I took that a different way. I'm not sure exactly what the person was asking, but I thought they meant like what like when I think of the Pittsburgh, like the old Pittsburgh Steelers, I thought of smash mouth football, or when you think of the Green Bay Packers, you think of a passing team, or so I don't. I mean, I think that's I think right now the Eagles are searching for their identity. I don't know if they know what it's going to be yet. Obviously, Carson Wentz is the future of this team, and they better hope it's a bright future. We have no idea. That's part of the problem. Like Elliot says, we're in the locker room the other day, and you look around. I mean, this isn't. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't any good players on the team, but there's no go-to guy. There is no face. There is no identity, to use his word. There isn't one. There just isn't. It's just a bunch of football players, and it's the same with the coaching staff. I mean, it's just a bunch of guys. It really lacks personality. Now, I'm not saying that's good or bad or winning or it will equate to wins or losses, but it really is a bland group right now, and maybe by design.
What's crazy to me, and I mean this is slightly off topic, but not really. So I didn't cover the team yet when Brian Dawkins was there, so I wasn't around him, but. To those that don't know, Brian Dawkins literally had 2 lockers inside of the NovaCare.
Well,
to me,
Weapon X.
One was Weapon X, one was him, right? But to me, it's crazy nowadays to think that they would, just seeing how the locker room's constructed, that they would give a guy 2 separate lockers. And I think kind of speaks to what you were just saying, Mark. Like, you walk around the locker room, and this has nothing to do with the skill of the players, but
No.
just in terms of personality and leadership and all that, they really don't have that guy. I mean, Fletcher Cox is their best player, but Fletcher Cox is his personality. He's just more of a quiet guy. Yeah.
I like Fletcher, but let's be honest, he's kind of boring. He's not a
Right. He's just a quiet. Yeah, right.
Nice guy, but boring.
Right.
Vinny Curry, very good player, nice guy, but kind of boring. I mean, there's no Brian. There's nobody. There's no Weapon X on this team.
So we'll see if they can forge a new one here. Our next question is from Mark Arnold, and he wants to know which free agent. This is a good one. Which free agent wide receiver has a better season for the Eagles? Givens or Randall? I mean, Randall obviously comes in with a much higher pedigree. People know him because he played against the Eagles, and he had some pretty big games for the Giants against the Eagles. Givens, obviously, more of a speed guy down the field, and he played with Bradford. What do you guys think, Givens or Randall on a bigger year for the Eagles this year?
I don't even think it's close. I think it's going to be Ruben Randall, right? I mean, I think Givens, if you were going to talk yourself into Givens, the argument would be, well, he's played with Bradford before, and he kind of is the only deep threat they have, so maybe he gets on the field that way. But I think Ruben Randall could end up starting. So I think it's going to be Randall, and it's not going to be very close.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, like Randall does. If Nelson Aguilar doesn't become what the Eagles hope he becomes, which is at least a number 2 wide receiver, at least. I think when they drafted him, they expected him to be number 1 wide receiver. If he doesn't come into that this year, Ruben Randall's going to start next to Jordan Matthews. Givens, I'm not even sure he's a lock to make the team. I mean, he probably will be only because they signed him, and like Elliot said, he has some speed. But depending on how many wide receivers they keep, I wouldn't even. I mean, do you think he's a lock, Elliot, even to make the 53?
No, I don't think he's a lock. I mean, they already took his number from him because of Wentz. So
that's not a good sign, right? I mean, and the fact that he's, like you said, he played with Sam Bradford, well, big deal. If he went to North Dakota State, then I'd say, all right, maybe. I mean, Brad, who cares who played with Bradford? I mean, this is, as we said earlier, this is Carson Wentz's team now.
Even Bradford admitted that the other day. It eventually will be Carson Wentz's team. So even Sam knows that.
Right, playing with Bradford, that could hurt him more than help him.
That could be true. All right, next couple questions here revolve around one of the stories that came out, and we'll get more into it later when we talk about what you guys saw and thought about OTAs. But I guess we'll touch on it right now because 2 questions, one from David, one from John, came in about darren-sproles, which was kind of out of nowhere the other day. Sproles wasn't there at OTAs, and there was some speculation that maybe teams wanted to trade for him. He was upset. Then did he ask for a long-term contract? Before I get to the questions, what do we know, Elliot, about the Sproles situation and what's happening here based on why he wasn't there the other day? Is it simple and he'll be back soon, or is there more to this, you think?
Well, I mean, I know he hasn't been there for any of the offseason workouts, and so that would make the OTAs, right? So that would make him one of only 2 players that hasn't been to anything, and the other one's Fletcher Cox. Fletcher Cox is holding out because of a contract. Now, Doug Peterson said last week that Sproles isn't there because he wants to spend time with his family out west. Obviously, if that's what they're saying, then that's what it is. But I personally find it hard to believe that Sproles is not coming because just to spend time with his family. I mean, I know he's a veteran and all that, but normally when players hold out, it's not a holdout. Normally when players don't show up to these voluntary workouts, there's a reason behind it. I mean, even 2-3 off seasons ago when Kerry Williams didn't come because he was helping to decorate his house, that was only a few days. I mean, Sproles hasn't been to anything. So he took to Twitter a few days ago, to say that he was not seeking a long-term deal. But look, I think where there's smoke, there's fire. Obviously, he's upset about something. I shouldn't say upset. Obviously, there's something he wants, whether that be to not play for the Eagles, whether that be a new contract. And I think that's the reason he's not there. I would just be surprised if it was simply just because he didn't feel like coming.
Yeah. This whole thing that he wants to spend time with his family. Well, doesn't everyone? I mean,
I think that's a fair point, Mark. Every player probably wants to spend more time with their family.
I mean, ask any player there. Would they rather be home hanging out with their friends and family or at the Eagles running drills and being in the classroom? And What guy wouldn't say that? I mean, come on, that's nonsense. He wants to spend time with his family. With that said, and I'm big on this. I'm very big on this. I'm shocked that more guys don't stay home. To be honest, it is called voluntary. You can't be fined. You can't get any trouble for missing this. It's voluntary, and people who get mad about this, like I'm talking fans now. Oh my God, he should be like even when Bradford walked out. If Bradford just walked out and didn't say anything, I wouldn't have a problem at all. I mean, the fact the stuff he said made him just look kind of not real smart. But it's voluntary. Any job, I don't care what you are. If you're a sports writer especially, teacher, police officer, whatever you are. If your boss had a voluntary weekend where you had to come and show up to work, come up and do some work, but you're not getting paid and it's voluntary, come on. How many of the fans who are upset about these things would actually do that for their job? I'm saying less than 1%. So there's that.
I agree. My only counter to that would be, I mean, even though it's called voluntary, we all know they're not really voluntary, right?
Sproles isn't there. He's not getting in trouble. Cox
right, but
he's not getting in trouble.
Right. I mean, yeah, you're right. You can't get fined, but even though, the expectation is for you to be there,
Sure.
right? I mean, think of the 3 players that haven't been there this offseason, or at least have missed more than one day. Sam Bradford, who wanted to be traded, Fletcher Cox, who wants a new deal, and now darren-sproles.
Well, I was getting to that part. Yeah. So with that said, see, here's how it used to be. Back in the day, before we actually covered these things, when they just had them and then nobody cared, they were voluntary, and guys would come and go. Nobody missed the entire thing like Cox and Sproles have so far. But guys would come Tuesday and Wednesday, and then maybe leave early Thursday, go home for the weekend, come back Monday. It was because it was voluntary. They would come and go as such. But yeah, Sproles is obviously there's something going on, and I'm not buying. It makes the one thing that makes no sense. So teams called the Eagles and wanted to trade for him. That's the word that got out. Teams were calling about. Well, that wouldn't get him upset. That would be flattering, no?
Yeah, that was the weirdest part, Mark, about all this. When I first started piecing together what was going on, people were like, well, Darren-Sproles is not showing up because another team wanted him. I was like, what? Why would he not show up because of that?
No. What I think is
Bradford didn't show up because nobody wanted him.
Right. Exactly. There you go. You got two ends of the spectrum. Bradford wants to trade. Nobody wants to trade for him. Sproles doesn't want to trade, but everybody wants to trade for him. Okay.
I also think Sproles probably does want to trade. But
yes, I think this makes sense. The more I think about it, maybe let's just pick a team, the Miami Dolphins, since they were Miami wanted to trade for Sproles. The Eagles said no, and Sproles was like, "Damn, I wanted to go to Miami." He's mad that they didn't trade him to Miami. I'm not reporting that. I'm just speculating that could be that would make more sense than he's upset that some team wanted him. No, that makes no sense.
It's also weird to me that the Eagles won't trade Sproles. I think if I remember correctly, Doug Peterson, he said at the podium they're not going to trade him. I don't remember if he acknowledged whether they got trade calls on him or not, but. Why? If you're the Eagles, why not trade Sproles? To me, them keeping Sproles is a sign that they think. In addition to keeping Brad, they think they're going to compete this year, right? Exactly. Because why would you pay your third string running back $3.5 million?
4.5, isn't it?
Well, the cap hits 4.5, but I think they're only actually giving him 3.5. But it just to me, it's weird that you wouldn't trade him.
3 years old,
right? So they must think they can compete. Which I don't.
30. No, I might be a little off on the age here. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get the whole thing. I don't get why. I don't get why he goes on Twitter and acts like there's nothing wrong. All right,
yeah.
Then get your button, and if nothing's wrong, you show up.
Yeah, and in an off season where there's been a lot of drama, the Sproles thing is it's been strange. All right, so 2 questions.
He'll be 33 next month.
33 next month. Yeah, and he only carries the ball 5 times a game, so it's not like He's not a normal running back at 33, but he's 33.
He's still your top punt returner. He was a very good punt returner.
Yes.
I think he wants more money, to be honest. He might not want a quote-unquote long-term deal, but he might want a raise. He didn't say that.
No, he didn't. Right. And we don't know what he wants, but the fact that he's not there did raise some questions.
There's something that he wants that he's not getting, or there's something bothering him.
Yeah, something's weird about the whole situation. And for an Eagles team that doesn't have a great running back depth chart, it's certainly an issue right now. All right, so 2 questions came in on the Sproles situation that we just discussed. Assuming that Darren Sproles does want a new contract and the Eagles do want to keep him around, David wants to know what kind of contract do you give Sproles? I mean, it's a weird. This isn't a normal running back at 33 that we're like, wow, you just don't pay him at all, because he obviously has some value and he's a unique player. What would you give him, Elliot? I mean, first of all, would you give him a new contract? And two, like, what? How much would you pay him?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I think if I'm the Eagles or if I'm just any team, if I'm the Eagles, I would trade him, like I said. But let's just, I mean, if the Eagles have decided not to trade him, I mean, I think $3 million a year is a fair price for Darren Sproles at this point. I mean, because he's also a punt returner. If he wasn't going to return punts, then I think, he's worth no more than, $800,000 a year. Because as an actual player on the offense, he doesn't contribute much, in my opinion. I mean, he's a good change of pace back, but I would rather go with a younger player and try to develop, like, a guy like Byron Marshall or Kenyon Barner, and just see what they have, because you're not going to win this year. But in terms of a contract, I mean, 2 years, $6 million, something like that. I mean, maybe give him another year on top of what he makes already. And I'd imagine that's probably what he's looking for a little bit, is just security. I mean, we can talk about what Sproles is worth and his age and running backs and all those things, but not many players in the NFL with his kind of pedigree like to play on the final year of their deal. So I'd imagine that's what it's about a little bit as well. But I think he's worth, $3 million a year. And I think, since he doesn't touch the ball a ton, he's in good shape. I would be comfortable giving him another 2 years.
I'm not, and I like the
Alrighty.
guy personally. No, I mean, I hate this. I hate having to criticize guys I like, but you ask. So, no, he's 33 years old. Running backs don't. Come on, he's past the expiration date's already up. No, I'm not giving him another contract. Are you kidding me? He's going to hit the wall. I mean, he hit it already last year. His numbers last year as a running back were not good.
Didn't his yards per carry last year dip by like 2 from the year before?
He was 3.7 last year, 3.8.
Right, he had to be over 5 the year before, right?
Yeah, so he's already hit the wall as a running back. Guess what? The return is going to hit the wall too. It just does. No one's ever beaten age. That's the one thing that you can't beat.
But the difference is he's so unique. I mean, you can speak to Mark.
There's been 1,000 Darren Sproles in this league.
Has there?
Yes.
I can't think of any other comparable players.
Hester for the Bears. He was a wide receiver instead of a running back, but same guy.
What about Brian Mitchell?
He's bigger. Both those guys are considerably bigger.
He's a Hall of Famer, I think. No, I mean, okay.
Yeah, but both of them were considerably bigger than Sproles.
Okay, that makes it even worse then.
All right, I'm just saying.
You're going to give him 2 more years, so you want him around at 35? You think he's going to be productive at 35?
How long did Brian Mitchell play for? He played for a long time, didn't he? And he was kind of like
He ended up with the Giants. He went to the Giants, who gave him some money, and he was not any good with them.
No, you're right. He wasn't.
And that's what I'm saying. You don't give guys in their 30s running backs, especially.
But you can make the argument. You can make the argument Sproles was the team's best running back last year.
No, you can't.
Yeah, I think so.
He averaged 3.7 yards a carry.
Okay, well, DeMarco Murray.
It was a bad room.
Terrible,
yeah, it was a bad group.
Ryan Matthews had a few good moments.
5.1 and 6 touchdowns.
Who was that?
20 touchdowns as Sproles. And
Who was
Murray
that, Ryan Matthews?
Ryan Matthews, yeah, had 200 more yards than Sproles and twice as many touchdowns, an average of 1.
He also missed like 4 or 5 games,
and he still had better numbers than Sproles.
Okay, I'm just saying. Well, I would imagine he carried the ball way more as well.
No,
but I just think.
Well,
yeah, because I don't think Sproles had over 100 carries, and I think Ryan Matthews
106 to 83.
All right, so twice as much.
20
so
more
twice as many touchdowns and twice as many carries.
83 times 2 is not 106, Elliot.
You just said he had 106
106
carries.
to 83. Matthews had 106 carries.
Oh, 106. I thought you said 160.
No,
my bad.
No, 106 to 83.
All right, to go off your point, Mark, just to make the comparison.
Don't give a 33-year-old running back who's past his, like I said, expiration date's up. No, you don't give him 2 more years. If he wants to, I'd trade him now, like Elliot said originally. I would trade him now if you can get something for him.
And you have a point. You have a point when it comes to the comparison that I thought of with Brian Mitchell, because I'm looking at the numbers now, and every player is different, obviously, but I see some comparison between the two. And you mentioned, Mark, when Mitchell left to the Eagles to go to the Giants.
Right.
His career basically fell off a cliff. So
he's done.
He averaged, he averaged from when he was with Washington and then with the Eagles, he went to the Eagles in 2000. He averaged 7.5 yards an attempt, and then he hit the age of 33.
Bingo.
And for the rest of his career, he ran for 29 total yards.
All right. Well, first of all, I think Darren Sproles is a better pure running back than Brian Mitchell was.
I agree. No, you're right, Elliot.
Okay, but two, I'll also say, and then we can move on to the next question because I know there's a lot of them. But I would rather go into next season with if I had to pick a separate of what my team situation is, I'd rather have Darren Sproles as my running back than Ryan Matthews because Darren Sproles, at least in my opinion, is a bit of a playmaker. Ryan Matthews is the definition of just a guy that gets hurt, in my opinion. So you can debate who was better last year at stats, but I think Darren Sproles was a better player last year.
Oh, this isn't about Ryan Matthews. This is about giving a 33-year-old running back another contract.
I guess what I'm trying to say is how many teams their best running back last year was 32. Like now you disagree that
Darren
Sproles was the best running back. Right.
The best. If he was your best running back, why did he only get 83 carries? He's a part-timer.
Why did DeMarco Murray lead the team in carries?
He was supposedly their best running back, and
what I'm saying. He was right.
Really was. Murray really was. I mean, his numbers don't reflect it, but he started off so bad that I don't want to be like the Sam Bradford Club and say look at his last 7 games, but look at the second. When Murray had some better games. I mean, if the first 2 weeks he was so abysmal, it could only get better.
I just think, in my opinion, if you threw stats out the window and you just watched the team last year, in my opinion, I think Sproles was their best running back.
Well, I don't know what you were watching.
We were all watching a bad team. I mean, that's for sure.
What game did Sproles play? What game did
Didn't he have a good game against the Patriots?
Yeah, punt return for a touchdown. That's what he does. He's a good. We're not talking about the punt returner, are we?
No, but I mean that's the whole package. You're talking about giving a guy $3 million. I mean, you still get that part of it.
Not at 35. You want to pay him at 35? Okay. I mean, you
$3 million. $3 million is not a lot of money.
But Kenyon Barner can do the same thing at a lot younger age.
All right. Well, Kenyon Barner can't. Maybe he can return punts as well. All right, I agree with you on that, but I'd give him $3 million, and maybe I'll get fired like Howie will. But I would give him $3 million.
Let's move on to the next question because I think it plays right off of what we would do or what you guys would do with Sproles. John wants to know scenarios for running backs if the Eagles do trade Sproles, free agents, trading for a guy, or any team stacked, and then what is the running back depth chart without Darren Sproles? If we were to say that they would move on from him somehow. I mean, Matthews obviously would be at the top, but like you guys are saying, he's just completely unreliable. So what do you think? Do you think they would if they trade Sproles, I guess I'll make the question, what are they doing at running back? Just going in with Matthews and Smallwood and Barner, Elliott?
And what more?
And yeah, I mean, I think by game 9 or 10, Smallwood's going to be playing a ton. But I would say it'll be Matthews, Smallwood, Barner, and I mean, I really like the guy Byron Marshall out of Oregon. We'll see, but I mean, they are trying him out at receiver, so I don't know. But yeah, I don't think there's anybody out there unless there's a surprise cut at the end of training camp that's better than the guys they have now.
It won't be hard to find somebody better than the guys they have now. Come on.
What about Arian Foster? I'll throw that out, guys. Would you? No? I wouldn't either. I'm just curious throwing it out there.
If this team was in a different spot, if they were maybe closer to being a contender, I would take a flyer, but I don't see why now.
No, I don't want Arian Foster, please.
In 2 years, I want my running backs to be Arian Foster, Darren Sproles.
Kenyon Barner is the guy, fellas. He's going to get every opportunity to be number 2 behind Ryan Matthews, and then since everybody is under the assumption that Ryan Matthews is going to get hurt, I don't know why they would think that, but
because he always does.
Exactly. That was being sarcastic.
Okay, all right.
I think Barner becomes the guy. I think the fact that Barner is still on the team. I mean, Eagles have cut a lot of guys, traded, cut, whatever. A lot of the quote unquote Chip Kelly guys since Chip has been gone. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah, almost all of them, and not
Kenyon Barner, not the Oregon Duck.
And he was taking first team reps at OT. Yeah, we'll just put that out there. With Ryan Matthews there, I know he's still recovering, but he was.
I think Howie Roseman, who's in charge of the roster, and I think Peterson and his staff. Maybe it's Deuce. Maybe Deuce is the guy saying, "Hey, Barner's. I like this. I mean, somebody there likes him because he's still there." And again, I don't think he's going to ever be 1,000-yard back or lead the league in rushing or be any kind of superstar. But he's certainly an NFL quality running back, and I think
he played well last year. Besides that fumble, I thought he played well.
Given limited opportunity, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I think he could. I think if he's your 2, you're okay. I mean, again, I want to see it. I think he deserves the opportunity. I'll say that instead of just picking up 30-year-old old guys that can't play anymore.
Which is probably what they'll end up doing. All right,
Foster. I mean, not whatever.
Right. The guys on the out there right now. All right, so Mark, let's take 2 of yours, and then we'll chat about OTA. So 2 of the questions you got on Facebook.
I didn't write their names down. I'm sorry, but they know who they are if they're listening. One person asked, will Nelson Aguilar benefit more in this offense than he did in the previous offense?
It's an interesting question. I mean, I don't think so, because I don't think his issues last year were the way they used him. I think his issues were just I think two issues he had last year. One, I don't think they got strong quarterback play all last season. So I think that the receivers, I guess they're going to have the same quarterback actually. But I mean, I just don't think Bradford was improved towards the end of the year. I mean, and Aguilar had drop issues, but I don't think the offense was the issue for Aguilar. So will he be improved? I mean, he could be improved just because it's his second year. Maybe Bradford plays better than he did last year. Maybe Carson Wentz gets in there. But I don't think the offense was the issue.
Yeah, I think if Aguilar gets better, and this isn't a knock on the previous coaching staff or anything, but I think a lot of people are raving to me about Greg Lewis as the team's wide receiver coach and how very limited. He's coached in college, San Jose State, Pitt, University of San Diego, and then he was the assistant wide receivers coach with the Saints last year. But a lot of people seem to think that Greg will relate to the players very well. Aguilar has ability. The ability is there. Obviously, he didn't get. He had a great college, USC. He was a first round pick for a reason. Maybe he just needs a guy like Greg Lewis to get it out of him. So, yeah, I think both. I mean, it's not like last year's offense wasn't a passing friendly offense. I mean, guys like Deshaun Jackson, Jeremy Maclin, Riley Cooper put up big numbers in that offense. So that wasn't an offense that holds wide receivers back by any means. So I just think maybe the change of coaching staff his position coach per se could make a difference for him.
Yeah, I think he'll have a better year too, and my reason is more just because I think that high ankle sprain held him back, and I just feel like
that's a good point.
If you're a wide receiver and you're young and you miss time, I think it just compounds on you out there. So I think he better have a better year because if he doesn't, they're in trouble at that position.
And getting back to our first question, I think Ruben Randall takes that spot.
Right. No, he will. He certainly won. He's still young enough where you could kind of say, all right, well, let's see if he has an extra gear to his career here. What's our next one, Mark?
Okay, next one we kind of touched on it a little bit, but it was how do we think the Eagles are going to use Smallwood in the offense this year? How many carries do we see him getting? How much work do we see him getting?
So one thing I noticed at OTAs, I don't know if you picked up on this, Mark, or not, was they seem to be throwing the ball to Smallwood a lot out of the backfield. And I didn't watch a ton of him at West Virginia. When you read the scouting reports, one thing is that everyone says about him is that he has good hands. So I think he could be a guy that – now one issue is I don't know how he is as a pass blocker. So if you haven't been on passing downs, that could be an issue. But I do think if he can improve as a pass blocker, I think one of the ways they'll use him a lot is – kind of, throwing it to him out of the backfield. Because last year, Ryan Matthews had issues with drops. Obviously, we don't know where darren-sproles is going to be. So I think Smallwood could kind of be that running back for him.
I would think so, too. I mean, from when I watched just some videos of him, he seems like the type of guy that would fit in this offense and really could give – they don't have much at running back. So I think he's going to have a chance here. Like you said earlier, Elliot, that maybe by week 8 or 9 or 10, he's going to get a lot of playing time. This seems like for any – kid taken as a running back later in the draft, this has to be one of the better situations in the NFL because what's ahead of you? A starter in Matthews that never stays healthy. Sproles is 33 and maybe asks for a trade, or as we discussed, we don't know what's going on there. And Barner, for as much as you like him, Mark, I know a lot of people do too. He's never got really proven anything. So I
like him. I just think he deserves an opportunity. Right. I'm not saying he's going to be great, but
right. And who knows? But he's not a guy that's like entrenched at all. So now you have. I think it's a good spot for Smallwood to answer the question. I think that if he's going to have a chance this year, if he could play, he'll probably play a lot.
Yeah, I think he's definitely. He'll be. I'm going to say that he might be the one rookie who contributes the most over the course of the season. I know Wentz will eventually, but I'm not. I'm still. I know Elliott thinks Wentz is going to get in a lot sooner than I do, but I think. I mean, Smallwood's probably going to. I mean, barring any injury to himself, he'll. I mean, I think he'll dress and play all 16 games. How many carries will he get a game? That depends on how the game's going, probably, and on Ryan Matthews' health. But yeah, I like him as at least at the start as a third down back that they bring in to and throw him. Yeah, he does have to work on his pass blocking. But if he's the guy going out and if they line him up in the slot even and throw it to him, he doesn't really have to worry about that too much. So yeah, I think he'll do stuff this year. He will help the team this year.
All right, let's wrap up with thoughts from OTAs. If there was one thing or anything that stood out to you guys, what was it as you guys were there the other day? We're doing this podcast on a Thursday, so you were there earlier in the week with Eagles OTAs. We'll go to Elliott and then Mark before we wrap up.
So obviously, the big thing everyone was watching was the quarterbacks. And I mean, to me, the thing that stuck out, it's hard to take a ton from it because there's no hitting and all those obvious caveats. But to me, what really sticks out is just how much bigger Carson Wentz is than Sam Bradford. Just in terms of like his body type. I mean, he moves better. It's clear to me. Whether he might not even have the career Sam Bradford's had, but just in terms of the physical skills and tools, I think he's the much better option than Bradford in that way. Now, outside of the quarterbacks, I thought Vinny Curry looked way faster than he has in past years, getting off the line of scrimmage. I thought that was a good sign. What else stood out? I thought Michael Kendricks looked like he had put on 15 pounds of something, whether it's fat or muscle, I don't know, but he looked big. I don't know. Mark, what stood out to you?
Well, the first thing that stood out to me was that we can't sit down and watch practice anymore.
Oh, yeah. Doug Peterson doesn't let anybody sit down during practice.
What does that mean? Like, you guys?
Yeah, we're not allowed to sit. Yeah. We could sit with Chip. Chip let us sit on the bleachers. Right.
Why does Doug Peterson care if you're sitting or standing?
No idea.
Andy Reid cared. Because they worry about things that they shouldn't worry about instead of worrying about their team that's going to be 4-12 this year.
Was that an Andy Reid thing too, Mark?
Absolutely.
That's so weird.
Go back.
And for those listening that have never been inside the NovaCare, there's two huge sections of bleachers right next to the practice field.
Right.
So, and they just won't let us get on those. Whatever, though. It is what it is. I'm not complaining. It's just funny.
I'm not complaining. You asked what stood out. That's it.
Yeah, they're saying literally us.
I'll say this about Carson Wentz. Elliott's the president of the Carson Wentz fan club. I'm just a member.
Yep. Get on now.
I'm a member. I'm not the president. He showed me for a rookie, and I've seen rookie quarterbacks through the years. He didn't look like a rookie. If I just got dropped in there, or if they weren't wearing numbers, if you were just three guys throwing the ball around, and you asked me which one's the rookie, I wouldn't have said Wentz. I would have said probably not the big guy. The big guy looks pretty good.
What about the really short guy in the middle?
He stinks. That was my next thing. Chase Daniel can't play this game. No, he can't. He's bad. If I don't know who thought he was good and why they gave him that money, because he even thrown against air, he didn't. I mean, he does not look. If they have to start him, they're not winning game. They're not winning. I mean, he's the worst Eagles quarterback I've seen since
Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
The symmetry is just
Chase
amazing.
Daniel is tiny.
I don't care how small. Mike Vick wasn't.
I'm just saying though, when you look at him next to the other two, he looks like he's like 7 inches shorter than them. I know he's not, but he looks that.
He's about 5. He's 5 inches shorter than Wentz if he's really 6 foot, which he probably isn't.
Yeah,
but he can't throw either. I don't care how small he is. Like I said, Mike Vick wasn't big.
Why do you guys think he's so liked? I mean, not just by Peterson. I mean, someone was going to bring him in to be, a highly paid backup this offseason, no matter what. Is it because he's smart? Oh, I mean, I think Chase Daniel was going to get probably one of the better backup quarterback money any quarterback has. I mean, I don't think anyone would have paid him like the Eagles did. That was clearly Peterson, but I think someone would have signed this guy. That there seemed like there was interest out there. And I saw the Broncos had interest. Why? Is he really smart? Is he a good team guy? Like, if he can't play, why?
I don't think he can play at all. I mean, I never thought he was undrafted. He was in New Orleans, but never played there. He's in Kansas City, never played there. Why? Because you know why? Because there's a lot of dumb teams in this league. That's why. And that's why there's certain teams that will never – there's a reason teams never win. I don't think Green Bay was going after him. I don't think Pittsburgh was going after him. I don't think the Patriots were going after him. dumb teams do dumb things, and he can't play.
And specifically from the Eagles' standpoint, I mean, the reason they signed him is because he knows the offense. Now, you could argue that's a stupid reason because,
No, teams do that sometimes.
I mean, but I love how everybody talks about this Doug Peterson offense. Like, it's like this, revolutionary new thing. Like, you've said yourself, it's basically the West Coast offense. I mean, they got 6 months to learn it.
Half the league uses it in some
right.
form.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure Chase Daniel's a nice guy. I don't know.
He's a great guy. Just can't play quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
Not a lot of guys. It's a hard thing to do, and he don't do it. I mean, again, it was one. Maybe I caught him on it. I could change my opinion next Tuesday when we see him again, or even as we get to camp. But for just one day, looking at, I mean, you asked what stood out to me. I was shocked at how. And again, it was rainy. A lot of guys. I didn't look at his hand size, but if he has small hands, guys with small hands,
he's got to have small hands. Just looking at it. I mean, seriously. But go ahead.
But no, I mean that's the rap on guys with small hands that they don't throw a wet football well because they don't. Their hands aren't big enough to get a good grip on it. But he did. Come on, now you saw some of the same passes I saw, right? I mean,
no, I agree. And the one thing I'm surprised you didn't mention, remember you were going to, because you brought it up a lot during practice, was there was a lot of drops. Now it could have been because it was raining, but there were a lot of dropped passes. And not really one specific guy.
A lot of guys, yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of all over.
Guys weren't even going to be on a team. A lot of them were by guys like that. But there were. But again, the rain. I'm gonna be nice and say it was because of the rain and the wet and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I just looked up Chase Daniel from when he was at the combine. He has 9 1/4 inch hands, so I guess that's kind of on the smaller end.
Isn't that on the really small side? I mean, Jared Goff's hands were 9 weren't they 9 3/4 inch?
Like that, and that's considered small. So they had 9.
What is it? With like 10 is the number, right? Like
I feel like my hands might be bigger than Chase. I mean, next time I see him,
my hand. I have big hands though. My hands are like almost 11, I think, or something. I got big hands. I do.
Next time I see Chase Daniel, I'm gonna put my hands up next to him and see.
Shake hands.
Just give him a high five and see if he thinks it's weird.
Nice pass, Chase. He'll know something's up when I say that. Go ahead, Doug.
And like you were just saying, Mark, to be fair, it was rainy. It was one OTA, but
it was raining. It didn't just rain when he threw the ball. It was raining when Bradford and Wentz threw the ball too.
That's true, right? And all you have to go on so far is one.
And guess what? The Eagles don't play in the dome, so it's going to.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. But I mean, he won't be playing. So the funniest thing, maybe the funniest moment of OTAs though, before we wrap up, was Doug Peterson was asked, during McNabb's rookie year, when Peterson was the quarterback, they would put him in. They'd put McNabb in for a series or two just to kind of, just get him in there and get him acclimated. And I think the teams are different, and I don't think that'll end up happening. But he was asked, would you do that with Wentz? And his response was, well, that'll be hard to do with Chase Daniel on the roster. As if like that Chase is going to factor in whatsoever to how they handle Carson Wentz. So,
it's scary. You brought it up. It's scary that Peterson thinks Daniel's good.
I know it happened in '99, and obviously, the same Eagles fans are around them. But could you imagine the reaction if he starts doing that? Forget Daniel for a second, because I that would just be silly
for obvious reasons.
Yeah, like imagine if just Bradford's not playing well, or they're down 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and he just starts plopping Wentz in, every other week or whenever it makes sense. Like as soon as he takes the field, I feel like fans will just, they'll assume and want him to stay on the field. Like they're not going to want to go back to Sam the next week.
No, you're right.
I mean, as much as I said there were different teams, I think it's just a different time, too. I can't imagine.
I know 99 was a long time ago, even though it doesn't seem like for me. You guys were little kids then. But, I mean, it's a different world now. There wasn't the social media, and the internet wasn't as big. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't even remember Eagles football before 99. But go ahead.
Do you remember 99 at all, even?
Yeah, the first Eagles memory I have is the Eagles game in 99. I think it was on the road against Buffalo. And wasn't that McNabb's first game in?
It's nothing.
Yeah, it's the first Eagles memory I have in my head.
So you were young. That's what I'm saying. I mean, 99. I mean, you could do things differently, and I mean, you can still do them if you don't care what people think. I mean, who knew what people really thought back then? Because there wasn't people didn't
instant reaction.
Right, fans didn't have a voice the way they do now on, because of social media and whatever. There was no podcast. I mean, it was, you guys wrote about it and we wrote about Donna, and then, Andy would explain why he was doing it, and we'd say, okay. I mean, we wanted Donovan in sooner. At least I did. I remember writing stories saying back then, Come on, let's get this guy in already. And as I look back, I said, you know what? I think he handled it right. There was no reason to put him in too soon. And as it turned out, Donovan became the greatest quarterback in franchise history. So whatever they did, it worked. Now, I'm not saying that if they brought him in a couple weeks sooner, it would have ruined him. But it's going to be that's the story. To me, that's the story of the 2016 Eagles. When does Carson Wentz come in?
That's why they should get rid of Bradford. But that's a story for another podcast. Yeah.
Right. How quickly can the 2016 Eagles move us forward to the 2017 Eagles? All right. As we wrap, I pulled up the box score, Elliot, of the game you were mentioning. So 26-0. The Bills beat the Eagles. It was week 3, I believe, of that season. Donovan did get in for a little bit the week before, but he did definitely play in the game you're talking about. So that memory you have, it was pretty.
He did play, right?
He did play. He was 6 of 11. Peterson was 14 of 26 for 137 yards. You'll be shocked that he didn't throw a touchdown. And let's see, we had Rob Johnson and Doug Flutie playing quarterback on the other side. So
one last thing before we wrap up. I know we've gone long, but just it dawned on me too. You talked about observations. It is kind of weird to think they're having Doug Peterson, who had a not a good NFL career, kind of teach Carson Wentz how to play the quarterback position. For some reason, that dawned on me during the OTA when he was talking about how he'll correct Wentz on the way he's doing something, or he'll tell Wentz this is what he should do here. Maybe that's not the best idea if you're trying to get Carson Wentz to turn into a franchise quarterback.
Well, again, I'm not a Doug Peterson fan as a player, especially, but great players don't always make great coaches. I mean, and a lot of good coaches. Andy Reid never played. He didn't play in the NFL. Barely, was a backup lineman at BYU in college. I mean, you don't have to be a great player to be a great coach.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's true. It's always weird. It's always something like about those guys that were played, but they didn't really play in a starring role. Somehow, they're pretty good teachers. We'll see if Peterson is.
That's all sports. I mean,
backup catchers in baseball.
They're the best. They make the best managers, right?
Always seems that way. All right, guys, this was fun, and we'll be back soon for another episode as OTAs are in the books, and I'm sure we'll have some stuff to talk about soon with Fletcher Cox whenever he decides to get himself back, anything with Darren Sproles, and as we move forward here with this quarterback situation. Elliot, as always, thanks for doing this.
Yep, talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Elliot, for letting me do it with you.
Yeah, no problem. I'll think about it next week.
And thanks to all of you for submitting questions at the No Huddle Show on Twitter, on Facebook as well. You can follow the show. You can listen to the show on Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, however you want to listen. You can listen. Thank you for listening to the No Huddle Show right here on NJ.com.